meeting for the City of Wheat Ridge, Colorado for June 8th, 2020. We will see an American flag on our screen in just a moment, and if you would stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll of the members?
Janice Hoppy.
Present.
Judy Hutchinson.
Present.
Zach Urban.
Present.
Rachel Haltine.
Present.
Amanda Weaver.
Here.
Corey Stites.
Present.
Leah Dozman.
Here.
Valerie Nosler Beck.
Present.
Mr. Mayor, all members of council are present. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to have a proclamation to read this morning for Wheat Ridge Safety Month in June of 2020. Whereas, in conjunction with the National Safety Council and thousands of organizations across the country,
I'm sorry, that was an audio reminding us it's being recorded. My apologies.
Okay, I'm sorry. Whereas National Safety Month focuses on reducing leading causes of injury and death at work, on the roads and in our homes and communities, and to draw attention to safe practices that will decrease the likelihood of accidents. And whereas all community members deserve to live in communities that promote safe and healthy living environments. And whereas safe communities require the cooperation of all levels of government, business and industry employees, as well as the general public. And whereas through the support and observance of National Safety Month each year, employees are helping to reverse an increase in accidental injuries and death in the workplace. And whereas the city supports safety efforts and has taken a proactive stance in providing a safe and healthy work environment for its employees by supporting the Be Safe Safety Committee. And whereas the city works to prevent accidental injury by educating employees about safe and healthy practices in the workplace through training and encouragement. And whereas the beginning of the summer season, traditionally a time of increased accidents and injuries, is an appropriate time to focus attention on risk management and prevention. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the mayor and city council of the city of Wheat Ridge formally designate June as Wheat Ridge Safety Month and urge all community members to establish and maintain safe practices in their homes, workplaces, and communities. In witness whereof, I have set my hand and seal this 8th day of June, 2020, Bud Starker. And we have with us Allison Scheck, and Allison, I believe, chairs our Be Safe Committee, and I'd like to recognize her and ask her to say a few things.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Allison Scheck, Administrative Services Director here at the City of Wheat Ridge, and thank you so much for reading that proclamation, Mayor. June is National Safety Month, and the city does have, for the benefit of our new councilors, I wanted to let you know the city does have a very active safety committee, the Be Safe Safety Committee. It's actually chaired by Amber Garrett, who she is the new executive assistant who started on February 10th, the same day as our chief, and only got a few precious weeks in the office, although she's been here quite a bit, but before, you know, everything happened. But Amber has just really jumped in with both feet, is very passionate about safety, and has just brought a whole new level of energy to this awesome, awesome committee. So we do have an employee committee. It's made up of different staff throughout the city, different departments, different levels, but they're all very committed to safety here in Wheat Ridge. So one of the things that they have done this year to in honor of National Safety Month is they're incentivizing employees to take virtual trainings, safety trainings, and we're focusing on things like advanced defensive driving, bloodborne pathogens, preventing phishing, which I think you've all heard is on the rise at the moment through this crisis, and working outdoors in warm weather and some other things too. So that's been a focus. Another thing I wanted to just mention is that the city does receive insurance premium credits for the proactive work that we do here in the city, and we really make that a priority. And so, as an example, this year we received over $5,000 in credits towards our CIRSA premium. And that was based on an audit that we completed last year. Well, we just had last year's audit. This year we had last year's audit, and it went so well. We got a near perfect score. We actually exceeded, really, it's out of 100, and we got 130 because we earned so many bonus points due to the proactive work of this safety committee. So we take this very seriously, and just wanted to let you know a little about that. And thank you, Mayor, so much again for the proclamation.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the good work that you do. Safety is really important. Being able to go to work and go home every day safely is something that we don't take for granted. So thank you very much for all of that work.
Thank you.
Let's see, in your study session, in your packets, counselors, you have study session notes for April the 6th, April the 20th, May the 4th, and May the 18th of 2020, and council minutes of May 13 and May 11, 2020. Hopefully you've had a chance to review those, and I would ask if there is no changes to those, that we would let them stand approved. Are there any objections to that? Any changes to be noted? Okay, we will let the minutes stand approved as presented. Let's see. We're now at the approval of the agenda without exception. Are there any exceptions to the agenda? All right, we will go through the agenda as presented. We are now at our citizens' right to speak. We're coming to you tonight in a virtual format. All of the public has been muted, but now it's your right to speak. Citizens may speak on any matter not on the agenda for a maximum of 3 minutes under citizens' right to speak. Citizens who wish to speak on a public hearing at a public hearing or a decision resolution or another motion or agenda item, we will take public comment on those at the time. So this is something that is not on the agenda. The public's microphones have been unmuted now, and if you are not speaking, please mute your own telephone. I will invite members of the public to speak based upon the first letter of your last name. So when I come to your position in the alphabet, please ask to speak, and I'll be happy to recognize you. And when I do recognize you, please clearly state your first name and last name, and if you would please spell your last name and give your address for the record. Also, we're in a Zoom format, and down at the bottom is a hand that you can raise, and it will raise your hand in Zoom, and I will try to be good about checking that also. And Allison, if I do miss that, if you would prompt me at the appropriate time. Okay, so we are ready to start. Is there anyone wishing to speak whose last name begins with the letter A through E?
Yes.
Okay, if you would please introduce yourself, first name and last name, give us your address, and you'll have 3 minutes. Please go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Kate Cook. I'm with Local Works here in Wheat Ridge. As you know, we are a partner with the city to promote and support businesses in our community here in Wheat Ridge. So I just wanted to give you a quick update this evening. Thank you for the clock. I started mine too. Just wanted to let you know how we are changing and refocusing our efforts in light of COVID-19. We are rolling out a new business community engagement program called Chalk of the Town. It should be a lot of fun. We are inviting the community to come in small groups to meet at our local businesses where they can design chalk art. And we have 3 different dates here throughout the summer. So the week of June 14th, July 12th, and August 9th. And we will be producing a map to encourage people to go to the businesses, not only do the art, but then also visit those businesses and all the ones along the corridor. We'll be hosting a Fitness in the Virtual Park on June 13th with our very own Feed Your Soul Fitness, and that will be at 9 o'clock that morning. We're going to be having a driving, biking, appreciation parade for the Lutheran medical staff. That'll be on June 24th. That's a Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. The parade will stay on the Lutheran campus, and people are encouraged to decorate their car, signs, and their bike, and obviously practice social distancing. So in addition to our sort of in-person, moderate in-person events, we have some pretty fun virtual events going on right now. We've been doing a Home on the Ridge social media campaign. This week's topic is local brews. So we're encouraging people to connect with our local breweries here, share their information. And then we also do business spotlights as a part of this campaign. We have a community coffee break on Wednesday mornings. It's a fun way to meet your neighbors and talk about different things that are going on. This week's question of the day is, what new do-it-yourself projects have you taken on, and have they been successful or have they been challenging? So we've got some stuff coming up in throughout the summer. We're doing a community-wide bingo. Again, it's that mix of virtual and in-person, and really encouraging the residents to connect with our businesses, our parks, and the community. So we're doing bingo in July, scavenger hunt in August, and we are working on a Ridge Fest Deconstructed. So I don't know if you guys are sort of following the that new restaurant trend where they deconstruct different foods. So mac and cheese is a big one at my house. I'll hurry. We're looking to deconstruct Ridge Fest and host that throughout the community. So I look forward to talking with you more. If you have questions, please reach out to us.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. It sounds like you got a great summer plan, and thanks for all of those activities. Anyone wishing to speak whose last name begins with the letter A through E, please speak, and I will recognize you. Anyone whose last name begins with the letter F through J? F through J. Anyone wishing to speak whose last name begins with K through O? K through O. To speak, and I will recognize you. Anyone whose last name begins with P through T? P through T. Okay, last part of the alphabet, names beginning with U through Z. All right, I haven't heard anyone else, so any members of the public wishing to speak on citizens' right to speak. Is there anyone? One more time. Okay, then we will close our citizens' right to speak portion, and we will move to our regular agenda items. And our first item on the agenda is item number 1. That's the consent agenda. Ms. Hoppy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm pleased to present the consent agenda, item 1A, resolution number 31-2020, a resolution amending the fiscal year 2020 general fund budget to reflect the approval of a supplemental budget appropriation in the amount of $1,231,571 for the purpose of accepting the CARES Act local government distribution from Jefferson County. Consent agenda item 1B, motion to approve payment to the Bank of Oklahoma for 2020 principal and interest payments in the amount of $3,499,700 for the City of Wheat Ridge, Colorado sales and use tax revenue bonds, series 2017A.
Thank you. A motion is in order on consent agenda items number 1A and 1B.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve consent agenda items 1A and 1B.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Mr. Urban. Would the clerk please poll the council? All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand.
Mr. Mayor, the motion is passed unanimously.
Thank you very much. We will now go to agenda item number 2. Mr. Stites, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council Bill number 10-2020, an ordinance approving an amendment to the existing planned mixed-use development PMUD zoning to increase the allowable height for hospital uses at Clear Creek Crossing, case number WZ-19-10. At issue, the applicant is requesting to modify the underlying zoning to increase the allowable height for hospital use. A hospital is already permitted use at the existing zoning, and the existing zoning also contemplated 6-story employment uses. However, hospital built to 6 stories requires an additional 12 feet of height to meet design requirements and current building codes. The applicant is also seeking a limited edition height allowance accommodate a rooftop elevator associated with the helipad.
Thank you very much. This is a public hearing. It's an ordinance on second reading, and it is quasi judicial. I'm going to open the public hearing and go to Mr. Goff. We have a staff report and an update on this issue, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We did receive a legal protest on this public hearing, and it was validated today by staff. So I'm going to turn it over to City Attorney Jerry Dahl, and he's going to explain what the process is for that.
Thank you. Audio's on, is it? Good?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
As the manager indicated, we did receive a protest, actually a series of protests. And as council is familiar under the charter and the ordinance that council adopted in September of last year, those protests are analyzed in terms of area and location and ownership. And the community development staff did analyze those various protests, all of which emanate from an area on the south side of the Clear Creek Crossing development. As council may know, the hospital use, which is the subject of this particular application, is only a sub area of the Clear Creek Crossing development. But in order to amend that sub area to permit what is being requested, that's an amendment to the entire outline development plan. And so that's a rezoning amendment that affects that whole parcel. And so for that reason, the southerly boundary of this parcel is adjacent to the Applewood neighborhood, and the protests have come in from that neighborhood. Council may ask whether it's appropriate under the charter for protests to be filed by non-residents, and the answer to that is yes. The charter does not restrict the protest right to residents of the city, and this is consistent with how zoning kinds of protests and court challenges are handled by the courts. I would distinguish that, of course, from initiative and referendum, which is restricted exclusively to the registered electors of the city. And I think that distinction is important if you were wondering about that. In any event, pursuant to the ordinance council adopted last September, the effect of a protest once validated by community development, which they have done, is to automatically continue the public hearing until the next regular business meeting of the council. So that's July the 22nd. That means no testimony tonight. It also means that the staff will renotice the hearing for the 22nd. So this hearing will have gotten a lot of notice. But in any event, that's an automatic outcome of the ordinance council adopted implementing the charter protest procedure. So in short form, no testimony tonight, hearing automatically continued, but for the record, it would be appropriate for, and I would advise the mayor that it would be appropriate for him, and he should declare the hearing to be automatically continued to June 22nd, 2020 at 7 p.m. as a virtual hearing. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions of Mr. Dahl? Ms. Hulteen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Will, how will the copies of the protest be available to council and public for review?
They're all, of course, public documents under the Open Records Act. There's no privileges associated with them, and I'll certainly ask the staff to provide those to you, and they'll be available for any public inspection or copying, but it's appropriate for the council to see them, and we can arrange for those to be sent to you in PDF.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep.
Other questions? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to declare the public hearing on this matter continued until June 22nd, 2020 at 7 p.m. in the evening to be held as a virtual meeting. So, we will
I have a question.
conduct this on another time. Mr. Urban?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is the public hearing opened and then continued, or is it continued without being opened?
The public hearing has been opened, so it is being continued. Okay, we will now go to.
Mr. Mayor? I apologize for the interruption. Does that need to happen as a motion and a vote to do that?
No, Mr. Dahl?
No, not necessary. Council's ordinance from September is pretty clear about that. It says if a protest is submitted after first reading, the hearing shall automatically be continued. And that means no action by council necessary. I did feel it was important for our minutes and the record for the mayor to recognize that and make that declaration, but that's as much as needs to be done.
Thank you. Okay, we will move to item number 3. Ms. Dozman, would you please introduce this item?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution number 33-2020, a resolution of the Wheat Ridge City Council declaring that the city of Wheat Ridge is essential and urging Congress to allocate fair federal emergency support to reopen and rebuild local American economies. At issue on May 5th, 2020, the National League of Cities launched the Cities Are Essential campaign to secure economic relief for the communities on the front line of America's response to the novel coronavirus, COVID-19. The campaign calls for $500 billion in direct federal aid and economic relief from the COVID-19 pandemic over the next 2 years to support communities who support America's people. This resolution urges Congress to allocate fair and direct federal support to all of America's communities, regardless of population size.
Thank you. Mr. Goff, do we have a staff report on this?
Real briefly, Councilmember Hoppy actually asked to have this on, so I'll turn it over to her if she has anything to say. But also, yeah, I think as you all know, there's been several stimulus packages, relief packages approved by Congress, but none of those has provided funding to municipalities of our size, at least direct funding. We were fortunate enough to get some funding through Jefferson County. However, that funding is fairly restricted on what it can be used for. And the Cities Are Essential campaign is asking for Congress to consider funding municipalities at all sizes to help also backfill lost revenue. So that's kind of what this is and what the difference is between what we've already received from Congress.
Thank you. Ms. Hoppy?
I believe that we all received the emails from NLC talking about the push that they've been making to have municipalities of our size be recognized at a federal level. And I think it's important for us to say, yes, our community is important. And while it was nice of Jefferson County to share funding with us, I think that it's important for us to keep pushing for all cities, towns, and villages that are being affected by this.
Thank you. Before we go to questions of council, I'd like to open it up to the public to speak on agenda item number 3. If there's anyone from the public who would like to speak on this item now, if you would speak up, I will be happy to recognize you and you would be able to speak on this. Okay, I don't hear anyone from the public speaking up to speak on this item, so we'll go to questions from council on this item. Okay, seeing none, Ms. Dozman, a motion is in order.
I move to approve resolution number 33-2020, a resolution of the Wheat Ridge City Council declaring that the city of Wheat Ridge is essential and urging Congress to allocate fair federal emergency support to reopen and rebuild local American economies.
Second.
There's a motion and a second by Ms. Hoppy. Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will all those in favor please signify by raising your hand, and will the clerk please count the votes?
Mr. Mayor, the motion is passed unanimously.
Thank you so much, and thank you, council, for supporting our city to ask for these funds. They're needed. We'll go to agenda item number 4. Ms. Weaver, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is resolution number 34-2020, a resolution amending the 2020 open space budget to reflect the approval of the supplemental budget appropriation in the amount of
$120,000 to accept a grant from Great Outdoors Colorado in the amount of $110,000 and a contribution from the Cooler Strand Elementary School PTA in the amount of $10,000 for the purposes of approving proposals from Triple M Recreation to replace playgrounds at Cooler Strand Elementary School in the amount of $153,977.66 and Bonnie's Park in the amount of $42,181.08.
Thank you. Mr. Goff, do we have any further, there's a pretty good explanation of all of this work in our packet. Do you have a presentation on this item?
Not a presentation, but real briefly, Karen O'Donnell is on the line, and I believe she has some staff that worked on this very hard. So I'd like to maybe give them a second to give you a few comments on this item.
Terrific. Well, Ms. O'Donnell, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's great to have you, and please proceed.
Sorry, that was my dog. Good
It's
evening, Mayor.
It's good to have him with us also.
And members of council. Yeah, I wanted to introduce Brandon Altenberg. I'm not sure if you've had the opportunity to meet him yet, but he has worked for the city for a few years, but most recently in the capacity of the grant and special project administrator. And he's done a fantastic job in that role, and he worked very hard on this grant. So I wanted to give him the opportunity to give you a little more information.
Thanks, Karen. I'm Brandon Altenberg, Grant and Special Project Administrator with Parks and Recreation. And these projects, in addition to the Great Outdoors Colorado grant and the PTA funding that's been committed, there's also $669,895 from a Triple M Recreation grant that we got as well that shows discounted pricing for the projects. So in total, the project values are $289,895 in total playground value for both projects. And that stems from a city contribution of $85,000. So we're basically able to leverage that $85,000 in city open space funds to get both playgrounds. So that stands.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And thank you for pursuing these. I would like to, before we go to questions of council, invite our public to speak on this. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on agenda item number 4? You may do so now. Please speak up and I'll recognize you. Doesn't look like we have any members of the public who wish to speak on this, so I'll open it up for questions or comments from council. Ms. Hulteen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say congratulations to everybody. This was one of the first things that came up right after I was sworn in, and it just gave me a lot of hope and excitement about the things that we can do as a city when we partner with our schools. And I'm really looking forward to Cooler Strand getting their long overdue playground. And I also really appreciate that we're looking at this as a whole community asset. So just thank you for everyone. I think it's an extraordinary opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to the ribbon cutting.
And Mr. Mayor, I think it's important to note too, I think this was in the council action form, but yeah, the Cooler Strand Elementary playground will be open for public use also after school hours. So it will become a neighborhood park.
Terrific. Great to have that exercise equipment available. Mr. Stites.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to thank everybody for their work too. I went to Cooler Strand as a kid. So this is they're on their second playground that I've ever seen them have. And it's actually worse than the first one. So it is really nice to update this. And as somebody who lives on that area of town, we don't really have any parks. We've got Lewis Meadow, doesn't have any equipment in it. And I guess there's one kind of far away, but Cooler Strand really is the only park around. So it is nice. So we really appreciate it as a community. So thank you.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Okay, Ms. Weaver, may I have a motion on this item?
I think Ms. Hutchinson might have wanted to say something.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Hutchinson. I'm sorry I missed you. Please.
That's okay. I was going to say I had 3 grandkids go to that school, and the oldest one just graduated from Wheat Ridge High School, so it's been a long time. That playground really needed a little help. And I am so glad and that it's open to the public and it'll be a great improvement. I've seen the pictures. I mean, what they do with playground equipment now, and they're not doing steel. They're doing like plastic, so it won't burn the kids and things. That's looks like what's going on. I'm really in favor of it, and I think it's great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry I missed you on that round. Anyone else would like to say anything before we have a motion? Okay, Ms. Weaver, now I'll give you the green light for a motion, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve Resolution 34, 2020, a resolution amending the 2020 open space budget to reflect the approval of a supplemental budget appropriation in the amount of $120,000 to accept a grant from Great Outdoors Colorado in the amount of $110,000 and a contribution from the Cooler Strand Elementary School PTA in the amount of $10,000 for the purposes of approving proposals from Triple M Recreation to replace playgrounds at Color Strand Elementary School in the amount of $150,000, $153,977.66, and Bonnie's Park in the amount of $42,181.08. I'd like to know what the 8 cents is.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second by Mr. Stites. Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand, and I'll ask the clerk to tally the votes.
Mr. Mayor, the motion has passed unanimously.
Thank you so much, and thank you to everyone who voted for and supported this, and our staff and city workers who were able to move this to funding, and now we'll move to construction, and the kids can enjoy it. So I think this is really great for our citizens. So thank you so much. Okay, we will move to agenda item number 5. Mr. Urban, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution number 32-2020, a resolution of the Wheat Ridge City Council permitting new liquor license applicants during declared emergencies to satisfy the needs and desires requirement in multiple ways. Colorado Revised Statute Title 44, subsection 3-3012A requires new liquor license applicants to establish by petitions, demonstrants, or otherwise that a new liquor license conforms to the needs and desires of the adult inhabitants of the neighborhood. Although there are many ways to satisfy the needs and desires requirement, it has long been the city's custom and practice to require new liquor store applicants to satisfy the needs and desires requirement by conducting a door-to-door survey of residents and businesses within 1/2 mile of the new liquor license applicant's business. Because of coronavirus, the pandemic, throughout the state, new liquor license applicants have not been able to satisfy the needs and desires requirement through door-to-door needs and desires survey because folks are reluctant to speak with persons conducting the survey.
Thank you very much. Mr. Goff, do we have a presentation on this item?
I think a brief one. We have Joe Rivera, who's with our city clerk or city attorney's office. He represents our city clerk's office and the liquor board, a liquor authority. He's on line, and of course our city clerk who helped with this. So I'll leave it up to those two gentlemen.
Okay, Mr. Rivera, thank you for joining us tonight. Please continue.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As I was mentioned, I am the special counsel with Murray Dahl and counsel to the liquor board, and I bring this request on behalf of the liquor board. The liquor board seeks an accommodation that is a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. In essence, what's going on is that because of the pandemic, the usual way of obtaining proof of that the liquor license is conforming to the needs and desires of the community, of the neighborhood, which is the door-to-door survey, that is not being a successful model because of the pandemic, and people are reluctant to answer their door. As a result, we are looking to take advantage of some flexibility in the statute and survive and satisfy the needs and desires requirement in other ways, including relying on the testimony of the liquor license applicant as well as other citizens who are directly involved or impacted by the liquor license application.
Okay, thank you. Before I go to questions of council, I want to open this up for questions from the public. If you are a member of the public and would like to speak on this item number 5, you may do so now. If you would like to speak, please speak up and I will recognize you. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this item number 5? Okay, I don't hear anyone, so we will close our public comment portion and move to our questions of council. Councilors have a question. Ms. Hoppy and Mr. Urban.
I just wanted to bring to light that in the memo, it did say that this would be a temporary authority and that once the emergency declaration is lifted, it'd be 49 days later that the Wheat Ridge Liquor Board would return to its traditional practices requiring the formal needs and desires survey. So it's not that they want to altogether remove it. It's just temporary, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. Mr. Urban.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this would apply to applicants who have previously applied but who are in process, as well as new applicants during the declared emergency?
It would only apply to new applicants.
Okay. And then that time period that Ms. Hoppy presented, is that the time frame after the declaration of emergency has ended, that time frame would continue?
This special accommodation is effective during the time of a declared emergency, and then an additional 49 days after the emergency has been declared over.
Okay. And that is the declaration by us as a city council or by another civil authority?
By the city, as a city council.
Okay, thank you.
Additional questions? Okay, seeing none, it looks like, Mr. Urban, we're ready for a motion.
I move to approve Resolution 32-2020, a resolution of the Wheat Ridge City Council permitting new liquor license applicants during declared emergencies to satisfy the needs and desires requirement in multiple ways.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Ms. Hoppy. Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk please poll the council? All those in favor signify by raising your hand.
Mr. Mayor, the motion has passed unanimously.
Thank you so much. That concludes our regular agenda items for tonight. So we will go to City Manager's Matters by Mr. Goff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that meeting was way too short, so I have about 30 items I'd like to bring up this evening.
Good. Perhaps we need a 20-minute break.
Yeah.
You're breaking up there.
Just two quick ones. I believe council remembers, as part of the 2020 budget process, City Council approved a half-time homeless navigator position for the city. Wheat Ridge is working with all the cities in Jefferson County and the county on a regional homeless navigator program. Most of the cities, the larger cities, they've already hired full-time navigators. We didn't think we needed a full-time position in Wheat Ridge alone. So we've been having a little bit of difficulty finding a part-time navigator to hire at this point. The city of Golden and the city of Edgewater have also struggled with that. I believe there was a question on tonight's Wheat Ridge Speaks platform about the navigator position. So I just wanted to make this comment this evening that we are moving forward. We actually have a meeting on Wednesday with the city of Golden and the city of Edgewater, and we're going to look at combining forces so that we can potentially hire at least one full-time navigator that might be able to cover all three cities and then share the cost of that. We've gone through the recruitment process months ago, and we had several people interested, but the bigger cities picked them up and they got full-time jobs. So again, it was very difficult to find a part-time position. So I think combining forces with the other cities, we should be able to find somebody. We think it's an important position, even though we are under a hiring freeze for most positions at the city. This position is really needed today to provide services to our homeless population. Any questions on that? And the second item, the Wheat Ridge Police Department Community Advisory Group is going to hold a special community discussion tomorrow evening on Zoom at 6 p.m. Chief Murtha and myself are going to host that along with the advisory group for a couple different purposes. You know, obviously everybody has seen and what's going around on the country. So we're getting a lot of questions in Wheat Ridge on what's Wheat Ridge's policies and procedures in policing, and some questions about our new chief. Chief Murtha started in February, and as Ali mentioned earlier, he started the same day as Amber, our executive assistant, and hasn't had a great opportunity to get out into the community because of COVID. So he's really anxious to get to know the community better. So this will be an opportunity for the community to meet our chief. We will talk about the hiring and vetting process that I went through to hire Chief Murtha, and then he'll speak about what our current policies and procedures are on policing. And then we're going to take questions from the public. And again, that's tomorrow night at 6 p.m. on Zoom. And the Zoom information should be on the city's website. Mr. Seitz?
That'll be on the website, I'm sure. Is that recorded? And then is that going to be up on Channel 8 as well?
Ali, can you speak to that? I think we can.
We are recording it. I don't think we were planning on putting on Channel 8, but we were talking about YouTube Live, so I can follow up on that.
That's fine. It's just as long as those of us that can't see it live can still see it somewhere.
Absolutely. Yeah, it'll be replayed.
Good question. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I got. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
That's all you have. Okay, well, thank you. Well, you know, you didn't take your full allotted 45 seconds. So we'll go now to our city attorney, Mr. Dahl.
I think Ms. Hulteen had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Hulteen.
Thanks. I guess it's not a question as much as a comment. Just a reminder, if citizens have questions that they want to submit, they need to send those by noon tomorrow on Tuesday. I don't have the email address in front of me, but if you go to the city's website and find the event, email address is there. But if there are questions that our citizens want to submit, those questions do need to be received by noon on Tuesday for the panel to take a look at and respond to. Thank you.
Okay.
We will also, thank you, Ms. Hulteen. We'll also be taking questions that evening if somebody doesn't get them in. But we just wanted to provide an opportunity to those folks who maybe couldn't get on the call to provide questions ahead of time.
Oh, good to know. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks so much. All right, Mr. Dahl.
I don't have a formal report of any sort, but I'm happy to respond to any questions council might have.
I don't see any hands, so we'll thank you for your service and move to Mr. Kirkpatrick.
In response to the question that was asked earlier, I have all of those protests that were filed about the Clear Creek crossing. They all say the same thing. They took the form, we provide them online, filled it out and signed it. If you look carefully at the forms, what you see is that the people who have signed those protests all live beyond the city's limits, but just literally next to the city of Wheat Ridge in unincorporated Jefferson County, or unincorporated parts of Golden, if you will. There may not be any Wheat Ridge residents who live within 100 feet of the proposed development. But as Mr. Dahl explained, you don't have to be a resident to file a protest. I'm happy to provide any member of council who wants it, or to send all of you copies of the forms. I just wanted to let you know that they are repetitious. I also would like to encourage all of you and anyone else who may happen to encounter passing by a city police officer to thank him or her for the work they're doing and the reputation they have built here. They are under an awful lot of pressure from an awful lot of directions. And I, for one, think we have to be very grateful to the kind of service and protection we get from them and the difficult time they're going through now. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Kirkpatrick. It looks like we have our city treasurer, Mr. Miller, on the line. Mr. Miller, do you have anything for us tonight?
I don't have anything specific tonight. I'm looking forward to an opportunity to brief the council on some updates regarding our city's investments. with respect to some of the economic turmoil that we've been having in the recent financial markets because of COVID-19. So looking forward to be on a future agenda.
Thank you very much. Ms. Nosler Beck.
Thanks, Mayor. I've been having some technical difficulties with my email. And so for some of the constituents who have reached out to me via email, I apologize for my delay in getting back to you. But I should have responded today. And hopefully we're fixing this. Allie and John have been really helpful. We're going to figure it out. We're going to get through this. But I appreciate the grace that everybody's given me in that. So, and also just wanted to just thank everybody for continuing to wear their masks and keeping each other safe. I was out on the Greenbelt quite a bit over the past weeks, and people are wearing their masks when they're coming in close proximity to one another. And so it's just a great sign of the kind of community that we have here. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Dozman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to ask for council support in me applying for the Colorado Municipal League board opening for medium-sized cities between 8,000 and 60,000 people. The application process closes Wednesday, and it requires a formal support for the nomination by either the mayor, mayor pro tem, or our city manager. So I can send out that formal letter for a signature from one of you if I gain support from the rest of council.
I would be more than happy to support you in that request.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And I guess I would just add that I think that if we could maybe give Leah some support and ask for a consensus to see if we could all give her the consensus as council. So in the letter of recommendation that will be required to be written, that the mayor can state that the council as a body supports Leah in this application. So I'd like to ask for a consensus if we could support Leah to apply for the CML Executive Board.
And I would second that and support that also.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Stites.
Nothing today, and thank you for all the work on the Color Strand project.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Weaver.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
How are the goats?
The goats are doing well, thank you.
Okay.
Two new babies, everybody's great. So
Terrific.
Thanks again for everyone's patience last week.
Send them our best regards. Or whatever is appropriate in the barnyard.
I hug them.
Okay.
I'll send them hugs.
Okay. Ms. Hulteen.
Can I ask, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I had a couple neighbors ask the other day, when are the goats coming back to Lewis Meadows?
That's a great question. So it is a easy program to continue to be socially distanced. So they will be back later this summer. They are going to be starting out probably this first week in the right of way between the farm and Prospect Valley, which was the original city space that they started grazing. So look for that. Go visit them on your walks down Quail, and then probably I would say it's usually about the beginning of July, mid-July, that we'll be moving them over there. So we'll figure out some way to do something fun in a socially distanced way with goats in between us or something. Thanks for asking.
A lot of District 3 residents, very tiny ones, excited to see your goats.
Okay. Thank you for that report. Ms. Hulteen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So a couple of things. First of all, I just want to share that my thoughts and a lot of my civic energy have been really focused towards sort of this moment in time. And I feel like it's hard to be a civic leader and not be aware that across our country and really across the globe, that this is a time when we are really questioning ourselves and a lot of the civic systems that we're all part of, and looking to see what aren't we seeing and who aren't we hearing from? And I don't have the answers to that, but I do know that this is a time where really we need to be listening to our citizens and seeking out different perspectives and viewpoints, and not just assuming we're running business as usual. So to that end, Councilwoman Dozeman and I are planning to do a community listening session a week from tomorrow. So that is June 16th. We are still working out a couple of the details, but we expect that the details will be posted on the city's website tomorrow, Wednesday at the latest. We're working with city staff to iron out some of the details, but Councilwoman Dozeman and I've just been talking about the importance of just listening and hearing the stories from our community right now, and recognizing that sometimes coming forward at council isn't the right format for that. So we really want everyone to know that we are looking to hear from you. What are your thoughts and experiences that we need to be hearing? So Councilwoman Dozeman and I are looking forward to that. And again, more details will be forthcoming Wednesday at the latest. They'll be on the website. And beyond that, I just want to reemphasize how amazing our community is. I see a lot of respect for social distancing and mask wearing, and it has made the onset of summer much more welcoming, and I have enjoyed being out in the parks again, and just want to thank our community for that role in that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Voltine. Mr. Urban.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to echo the clerk's comments regarding our Wheat Ridge Police Department and encourage everyone to take a moment to thank them for their service and their protection and their ability to provide peace and well-being to our citizens through their service. So thank you for their efforts. As an update to the business stabilization program, we did hear from 111 business owners within the city of Wheat Ridge who were seeking assistance through the program. That deadline was last Friday at noon. So come this Thursday, the task force will be meeting to go through those applications and determine how we allocate the $250,000 we have across those 111 applicants, and I should have an update for you at the next meeting.
Thank you very much. Ms. Hutchinson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to echo Mr. Kirkpatrick's comments regarding the police. I support the police, and I feel that we do need to have police. And also, I want to state that it has been so hot and dry and now windy that we are in a high fire time, and just be careful about throwing things out a window or anything that could cause a fire with this kind of a wind. We just have to be alert. So I would just like to say that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Hoppy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I first just want to say thank you very much to Leah for stepping up to represent our community on the CML board, and I hope that you get elected into that position. Also, I would like to see if a council member will join me in adding the discussion from our city treasurer, Mr. Miller, to discuss investment in the light of the current economic environment of our city investments. So if somebody would like to support, thank you, Corey. And then I have one question. Oh, and then I also wanted to say, in Wheat Ridge Speaks, somebody had asked about the NRS staff position, and I just wanted to let everybody know that next week, June 15th, on study session, we will be going over the neighborhood revitalization strategy, communication, and engagement plan. We will get to meet that staff member that has been hired to carry out our NRS goals. So I wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. And then I just wanted to ask Mr. Goff, there was a statement on Wheat Ridge Speaks about there's a temporary wall up near Clear Creek Crossing, and they were asking if a permanent wall was going to be put there. And so I'm just wondering if that's something that we could look at, maybe speaking to Clear Creek Crossing about. It appears as though it's neighborhood safety for youth, and if they haven't already looked at it, we can ask them to take a look at that.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not aware of what wall they're talking about, but we'll look into it and get back to that resident.
Okay, thank you very much, Miss Hoppy. I think that was, lost my paper here. That was, I guess we are closing in on the end of the evening. I want to thank you all for joining us. Kate Cook with Local Works, thank you for telling us about all the great things that Local Works has coming up in our world later on this year. It seems like we haven't seen anybody forever, but we'll have an opportunity to get together in some good events. Thank you, Ms. O'Donnell and Mr. Aldenberg, for working with the Color Strand Elementary to put in a new playground for our citizens to enjoy. Some of our most important citizens will be doing work on that playground, believe me. Thank you very much, Mr. Revere with Murray Dahl for helping us out with the liquor hearing. I want to call everybody's attention to the Police Community Advisory Committee meeting tomorrow. You can go to our website at the city's website, click on the calendar for tomorrow night, June 9th at 6 p.m. and hit join the virtual meeting. I think this is a huge topic in our world, and I think we need to all be serious about how we address it and look inward and look outward and see how we can communicate with one another. I'm saddened to leave you tonight with a notice that a Wheat Ridge, a longtime Wheat Ridge and a stellar leader in our community, Don Cipher, has passed away. Don started Cipher Automotive many years ago. Don's been active in a lot of groups and was always a terrific volunteer in our community. If you ever needed to do anything, he stepped forward when we talked about Unit Number 1 police car a couple of years ago. He said, "Hey, I'll step up and help restore that project." He was a leader in the Wheat Ridge Business Association and a stellar member of our community, putting together car shows and events along our thoroughfares. Great community, great volunteer, all around good guy. So Don Cipher will be missed in our community. They're going to have a gathering at Cipher Automotive on Harlan Street, just north of 44th, Wednesday morning. They're going to motorcade over to Bandimere Speedway and pay your respects to Don. So if you're able to send best wishes to the family or go to the event. So always tough to lose a longtime good member of our community, but we have a strong community and a lot of challenges, but we will survive and be stronger. So if there's no more business to come before the council, I thank you all and we will stand adjourned.